Hello, my name is Nick Meyer, and the title of this speech is it ever okay to lie? And if so, when and when not to? A parent tells her 3-year-old that his latest art project is wonderful and beautiful despite even being able to decipher the scribbles on the paper. A husband tells his wife that his day at work was fine even though it was incredibly busy and stressful. A mother asks her child how the math test that he had taken that day went and is told it was fine, despite the fact that the child thinks he failed it. Each of these are instances of what most people consider white lies. Small lies that we tell to make people or ourselves feel better. The question we have to ask ourselves then is it ever okay to lie? In this speech, I will focus on different views of lying and whether or not there are circumstances under which it is okay to lie. Lying is wrong because it is a form of manipulation. Lying to children is acceptable as a parenting technique referred to as parenting by lying. One cannot live a Christian life and believe that lying is ever acceptable. The first perspective that I will address is the idea that lying is wrong because it is a form of manipulation as is done with the intent of deceit. Paul Faulkner states that since a lie is an assertion, the content of which is made with the intention to deceive the hearer with regard to that content, lying is, therefore, wrong. He also states that a lie is also an assertion that purports to be sincere and aims to deceive an audience with regard to its content only through purporting to be sincere. The argument, therefore, is that the person lying is doing so with the intent of deceiving his audience, that he is looking to manipulate others, and that his goal is that his audience believe the lie that he is telling them. The idea of trust goes hand in hand with lying. This is because the audience needs to trust that the speaker is trustworthy. The ability of trust enables the audience to believe what the speaker is telling them. Faulkner states that the reason why lying can be a form of manipulation stems from the ideas of lying, telling, and trusting. He specifically points to the 3 reasons given for why lying is akin to manipulation. The first is that lies purport to be telling, inviting an audience effective trust. The second is that when a speaker lies, the speaker is expecting the audience to believe him because the audience effectively trusts him. If the audience were to not believe the speaker, then the speaker will feel snubbed by their audience. So when telling a lie, a speaker purports to adapt an attitude that threatens an audience with resentment if the audience does not believe him. And this threat holds that the audience is uncertain and seeks reassurance of evidence. In this way, lying involves a further pretense. It commits the liar to acting as if he resents any response to the lie, which is not acceptance on the basis of trust. The third reason is that, by claiming to be sincere, the liar seemingly provides the audience that both of these reasons are good ones. The idea an audience trust is, therefore, false. Since it is based on false premise, the audience's motivated reasons for acceptance has no bias for justification. In the end, Faulkner asserts that lies are wrong because they are manipulative. That is, in telling an audience that P is lying, a speaker manipulates the audience because he offers the audience a motivated reason for not questioning whether P and the both reasons purport to be justifying when in fact they are not so. The second perspective that I will discuss in this idea of despite promoting honesty within their own children is asserting that lying is unacceptable, parenting by lying. Gail Hillman examined how lying is used by parents as a means of influencing their child's emotional states as well as their behavior. In this context, the parents are seemingly illustrating that lying is okay, at least under certain circumstances, while at the same time attempting to teach their children that lying is wrong. The idea that lying is wrong is a long-held Western idea. Given the strong objection to lying, it is, therefore, not surprising that parents stress the importance of honesty as they raise their children, and that when a child does lie, she is usually punished. It is, however, important to note that when it comes to lying, parents do not always practice what they preach. Despite the broad disapproval of lying, parents do not always indicate to their children that lying is wrong. Parents, for example, may lie in an effort to not hurt their child's feelings, such when a parent tells a young child how beautiful and wonderful their latest art project is, despite the fact that the parent can't actually really figure out what it's supposed to be. An important distinction is made, though, when it comes to lying to children. It discerns actual flat-out lies from false claims that are made within the context of fantasy, play, or teasing, or when it comes to entities like Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, or the Tooth Fairy. As we often hear about the ideas of practicing what we preach and learning by example, there are reasons to believe that parents would be strongly motivated to not lie to their children. By telling their children only what they actually believe, parents have the opportunity to demonstrate the value of honesty to their children. A study involving how parents felt about lying and whether or not they lied to their children found that there was no evidence that parents who most strongly promoted the importance of honesty were willing to lie to their children. The studies found that American parents lie to their children as a means of influencing their behavior and emotions, which is referred to as parenting by lying. The lies that parents used while parenting by lying were not limited to white lies. The question then becomes, why do parents lie to their children if they believe that honesty is so important? One potential reason is that it is a response to the challenge of coordinating conflicting set of goals. It may be that the parents sometimes consider certain goals to be more important than the need to avoiding lies. Another potential reason is that motivational concerns sometimes override moral concerns. In other words, although parents do strongly believe that honesty is important, they may resort to parenting by lying when they are having trouble generating other ways to attain their desired goal. At the end of the day, it was found that even though parents maintain that lying is unacceptable, they still lie to their children. The third perspective I will discuss is that one cannot live a truly Christian lifestyle without a strong belief in honesty against lying. Poitras asserts that in order to live a Christian lifestyle, one must support the truth and be against lying. His stance regarding his belief is clearly outlined as he states, "I think it is always wrong to lie. To state what one knows is not true." By my friend John Frame and a number of other theologians make exceptions in extreme cases, such as in war and to save life. Poitras does, however, recognize that there are arguments to be made that the attempt to justify circumstances under which lying is acceptable. The arguments that are presented assert that lying is okay in exceptional circumstances is threefold, focusing on normative, existential, and situational aspects. The normative aspects include positive instances of deceit in Scripture, and the negative observation that nowhere does Scripture directly and clearly prohibited all lying whatsoever. The existential perspective focuses on people and their motives. This is a perspective used that argues that lying in extreme situations is permissible. It starts by correctly observing that misleading others is an appropriate, godly response in some useful cases, where the people being misled are opponents of God. Misleading them is part of the process whereby the godly try to prevent the wicked from carrying out their godless plans. The situational perspective distinguishes between the interpretation of physical actions and verbal communication. The example provided states that if someone leaves his or her light on, we are likely to assume that they are home. If we later learn, however, that he or she was out of town, we are not offended and do not consider the act of leaving the light on to be a lie. If, however, someone tells us that he or she is home, and we later learn that he or she was out of town, then we consider this to be a lie. This is because when there are no words involved, we have to interpret physical actions, and our interpretations may be incorrect. Portress asserts in the end that lying is wrong and that honesty is required in order to live a Christian lifestyle. He asserts that the strongest arguments against lying can be found in the Bible, specifically in Exodus chapter 20, line 16, and Ephesians chapter 4, line 25, which state, respectively, You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor, and let each one of you speak the truth with his neighbor, for we are members of one another. The question remains, however, which of these views of lying is correct? In conclusion, each perspective presented has its merit and is highly incredible, and presents a valid argument regarding lying and honesty. Faulkner's assertion that lying is done with the goal of deceit and manipulation is valid. After all, why would a person tell a lie if their goal was anything other than getting the audience to believe the lie that they are telling them? The speaker is intentionally trying to deceive the other person. Parenting by lying, however, has its own merits as well. There's no real purpose of telling a small child their artwork is awful. While Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, and the Tooth Fairy are technically lies that we tell children, they are also magical fun and tradition. There's also the valued argument for parenting by lying, and that a small lie is okay for the sake of a greater goal. While Christians have long argued against lying because the Bible states that it is wrong, they also provide deeper messages regarding this value. That is it for my speech about why lying is considered wrong and considered right in some circumstances. I hope you felt the speech was good and that it was very beneficial to your own personal life. Thank you for listening. Have a wonderful day. God bless.